Welcome back. Let's take you now back to our top story. US President Donald Trump says South Africa's leadership is doing some terrible things after threatening to cut off all future funding to South Africa over its land expropriation policies. In a post on his media platform, Truth Social, Trump said South Africa was confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. Now, to speak more on this and other matters, let's welcome presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya. Mr. Magwenya, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. Of course, the story has developed tremendously with a lot of reaction on this particular matter. So we know, of course, the presidency has issued out a statement. We saw also a statement from DIRCO. These are threats that have been made by US President Donald Trump. We saw earlier on at the Mining Indaba Minerals and Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe reacting to, and he is obviously, speaking on behalf of President Cyril Ramaphosa in his position there at the Mining Indaba, saying that if the US does take away funding from South Africa, then South Africa should take away its minerals, which was a stronger message from the minister. What is your official response?
No, the official response is the statement that we issued. We will never, as South Africa, engage deliberately on a trade war with a trading partner or respond in a manner that will seek to undermine our bilateral trade relationship, excuse me, as well as our overall diplomatic relationship. I noted what Minister Mantashe said. That's not the official position of government. This issue has got nothing to do with trade. This is an issue over aid, but also informed by distortions and lies, quite frankly. And we've been quite quick in being resolute in terms of stating the facts, and the facts are there is no confiscation of anyone's land in South Africa. There is no officially sanctioned discrimination by the government of anyone in this country. The Expropriation Act has been unfortunately misinterpreted, and there's been a lot of fear-mongering generated by right-wing organizations such as Afriforum, who have no interest in seeing South Africa transform and advance, who have been consistent in their pursuit of racial divisions in this country. And so as a responsible government, we're going to be engaging the Trump administration at multiple levels of the administration, putting forward the facts, but also enhancing the understanding of our Constitution. What does it provide for? And how does an act such as the Expropriation Act, which has been amended, which was there before, it's been amended to be more in line with the Constitution. Unachi, the US, in its Fifth Amendment, has a similar provision where land can be expropriated for public usage, also in the public interest, but that is balanced with the rights of property owners. It is no different from what we are doing and from other countries as well.
I'm going to come back to that issue that you've raised about Afriforum, because I want to get an understanding of these groups that have direct line of contact with the US President Donald Trump. But before that, just talk to us about the very latest in terms of, has there been a formal communication from the US, from Trump's administration? And equally to that, has the President Cyril Ramaphosa reached out to the Trump administration seeking that particular meeting?
Well, outside of the statement that was released on X, as well as the sort of brief media doorstop that President Trump conducted before boarding his plane, there hasn't been any formal or official communication to our government in that regard. Efforts are underway to engage different levels of the US, or rather Trump administration. Minister Lamula will be on a call with his US counterpart in a matter of a day or so. And we think over those conversations, these issues will be put to rest. It is important that we also highlight the fact that, aid is discretionary. It's really an instrument aimed at cementing the goodwill in terms of relations between countries. It is normal for countries to review their aid commitments to various recipients. Yeah. South Africa has never been dependent on US aid or any other aid for that matter. South Africa has always been dependent on its fiscus in funding public programs. But where there's been a contribution coming from partners like the US, that contribution has been greatly welcomed. So there shouldn't be panic in terms of the sustainability of the programs that are being funded via that aid, the biggest of which is the PEPFAR, which had already been suspended prior to this announcement and only constitutes about 17% of our overall spend in HIV and AIDS. And so we must put these matters into context and avoid panicking unnecessarily. At the end of the day, we have a mutually beneficial relationship with the United States in terms of trade, politically and strategically. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. It's a relationship that we hold dear, it's a relationship that we believe must be preserved, and it's a relationship that has an opportunity to be expanded for the benefit of both countries, not just South Africa and our continent. And we are reasonably confident that we'll be able to do that once we have started engaging officially at different levels with the Trump administration.
I want to go back to some of the utterances you made, particularly talking about right-wing groups like Afriforum. I mean, some of the utterances that were made by President Trump are far-reaching and have far wider implications, I would imagine. So when you look at the genesis of this problem, it probably plays back to 2018, when you have individuals like the Elon Musks and groups like Afriforum who have seemingly this direct line to U.S. officials, presidents. We've seen, of course, some legislature that was almost passed in 2023, I think, on the Israel-Gaza matter. But when you look at organizations like those that speak with authority, particularly on South African policies, issues like the Expropriation Act that is in our constitution, what do you say about those groupings? How do you then get a handle, to those conversations that have these wide-reaching effect? There has been suggestions, like the analyst that we spoke to earlier on, saying perhaps they should be sanctioned.
Well, look, there's nothing wrong with any group in South Africa having the capacity to reach out to other governments and even heads of states. That's number one. And number two, Afriforum does not speak with authority. Afriforum is anti-transformation. Afriforum has advocated against all transformative laws that are seeking to redress the imbalances of our past. They've advocated against the unification of people in South Africa. They seem to harbor this notion that they can sustain themselves and their small cohort of supporters in some island where the rest of South Africa will not exist. That's not going to be the case. They do not speak with authority to anybody that they interact with. However, they will be given audiences in other quarters of the world. They may have been given an audience by President Trump prior to this. I cannot speculate on that. What is important for us is that where our country is mischaracterized and misrepresented, we correct that immediately. Secondly, as I've said, we have a very important relationship with the US, which we're going to work towards preserving, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. We have been in dialogue with Elon Musk with respect to his own desires for investing in South Africa, particularly through Starlink and other initiatives. We'll continue being in dialogue with him, as well as a wide array of investors from different parts of the world that have an interest in South Africa. Where we will be firm, we will always stand firm when there is a deliberate mischaracterization and distortion of our laws, and there is a deliberate attempt to malign our image as a country, that we will not tolerate and we will always speak against.
You spoke, of course, about the political and the trade strategic role and partnership that you have with the U.S. Given all of these dynamics that we have been speaking about, particularly where in some corners it does appear that South Africa's independence and its laws are being questioned, how would you then, characterize your relationship with the U.S., particularly as you will be handing over the baton of sorts as we speak as a G20 presidency? We also have AGOA as a matter of concern for many people, given that the renewal process is happening this year. There's also still the matter of, Israel and Gaza. As we speak, President Trump is meeting the Prime Minister of Israel today. So there are all of these concerns. So how then do you characterize that relationship, given all of these dynamics?
There's a historical context to our relationship with the United States, and as I've said, it's been a hugely successful and mutually beneficial relationships for both countries. The G20 presents us with a very unique opportunity to actually engage with the U.S. on a more regular basis. You will know that as part of the G20, we have this troika that includes Brazil as previous president of the G20, ourselves as current president of the G20, and the U.S. we will hand over the presidency of the G20 to the U.S. That gives us an opportunity to engage on a more regular basis on a wide range of issues, issues particularly concerned with the G20, but also a number of other geopolitical issues as well as issues of trade, not only amongst ourselves with the US, but more globally. So that is a good opportunity where we will work towards cementing this relationship. We'll also work towards ironing out all of these issues that can be regarded as issues of concern. In the past, we've said to the U.S. where we disagree, we will do so respectfully. We understand the positions that they've adopted on issues where we hold a different perspective, and equally the U.S. has maintained that position. But that has not clouded the manner in which we conduct our diplomatic relations, the manner in which we conduct trade between our respective countries. And so we are confident that once those engagements begin in earnest, there will be a better appreciation and understanding of all of these issues, including the issue of Palestine. They will understand why we've adopted the position that we've adopted. And we've been at pains in explaining this position, not only to the US, to a number of our trade partners, particularly within the G7 grouping of countries, and we'll continue doing so and talking to them. However, as a country, we are a sovereign country with its own constitution, and that constitution enforces the principles that we hold dear, and we will remain firm with respect to those principles.
All right, Vincent, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Of course, that was the presidential spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, just giving us, of course, the presidential, standpoint and view around the recent utterances and threats made by U.S. President Donald Trump.